What's up, guys? Welcome to the Warriors Report. Today I will be predicting each Raptors player statistics this year, and I'm going to start off with Kyle Lowry. So Kyle Lowry is getting older in age. He is going to be 35, I think, this year, and obviously we did have a short off season, so he's not really showing any signs of slowing down, though, but I do think Coach Nurse will reduce his minutes quite a bit. He did say, Coach did say he's going to reduce his starters minute overall, and I can definitely see him giving Kyle Lowry less minutes than last year, just because we also have a lot of guards, but also especially because we have Malachi Flynn off the bench, and we really need to save Kyle Lowry for the playoffs. So, and I predict his stats are going to look somewhat like this. So for the 2019-2020 season, he was playing 36 minutes a game, so that was quite. Nurse really relied heavily on his starters, and I think that's what may have caused, when you look at last year overall, the injuries we had overall, but especially at the guard position. I think Fred VanVleet missed some minutes, Kyle Lowry missed some minutes as well, and he played a lot of minutes last year, 36.2 minutes. He did average 19.4 points a game. His assists were up there, and he's a good rebounder for his size. I definitely see Nurse reducing his minutes, like I said earlier, though. I don't think he'll play as much as he did last year, just because we're so guard heavy this year and we can afford to rest him a bit more. Also because we do want to save him for the playoffs. I personally don't really see Kyle Lowry playing as much as last year. And I see a little bit, his statistics wise, I see him dropping off a bit just because his minutes are going to be reduced. And not that he's not capable of putting up points, but I do think I don't think he's going to be trying to score as much. I think he will probably do the same, as we expect him to kind of preserve his energy for the playoffs. Last year was kind of just, we had lost Kawhi Leonard the previous summer, so we were kind of just trying to, I think, prove who we are as Raptors. This year we know who we are as the Raptors team, and we definitely want to save Lowry for the games that matter the most in the playoffs. So I think his minutes are going to be reduced. I also see his assists being down a bit. I think Fred VanVleet will get more of the ball duty this season. So I'm expecting somewhere around 7.1 assists a game. His points will be about 18.2. He can still ball out. We've seen Kyle Lowry against the Heat, even though it's only one preseason game. And he's still going to get about 4 rebounds a game. And, I mean, he's going to do his thing. Kyle Lowry's just going to kill it this year. But I definitely see him playing less minutes, and his statistics-wise won't be like last year, just because of his minutes being restricted. And I think Fred VanVleet will take a bigger role. And also, we do have Malachi Flynn coming off the bench, and just overall, we have a lot of guards. So the next player on our list will be Aron Baynes. Aron Baynes actually had a really good season last year with the Suns. I don't really see him having the same season with the Raptors offensively, at least. I think his role is a bit reduced just because we have so many scores in our starting lineup, and also it's just because I know he's still kind of adjusting to the Raptors roster and where he fits in, but I just don't really see him having a huge offensive role. So we'll have a look at Aron Baynes here. So when you look at his 2019-2020 statistics, he did have a bigger role with the Suns because DeAndre Ayton was suspended last year, so he was their main starting big. He did average about 11 and a half points per game. Again, that's because he had a huge role, and I think he was just going off with his 3-point shooting last year during that short stint. He's also getting about 5.6 rebounds, 1.6 assists in about 22.2 minutes. His minutes did get reduced when Ayton came back from suspension. I do see him getting maybe an extra minute or so, extra 2 minutes. He's going to average about, I'm guessing, 23 minutes. He is one of our main starting bigs. We don't really have anyone. I don't think Coach Nurse is going to be dependent on Alex Len to play huge minutes, so I think he's going to play more minutes. I'm predicting he's going to get a few more rebounds, 6.5 rebounds or so this year, just because our backcourt is really short. And although they rebound good for their size, they're not really great rebounders. He's going to average about 2 assists just because he's got shooters all around him. He's got Pascal, OG, Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry. They can all launch the 3. Points-wise, again, I see his offensive role being, and scoring-wise at least, a bit reduced just because the way the Raptors play, it's not really dependent on their bigs getting you points, except for Serge Ibaka last year because he played a lot more aggressive. I just don't see that in Aron Baynes. 8.9 points again, and I think it's because I remember seeing one preseason game. I think it was against the Heat or one of the games against the Hornets where he had a mismatch and he was asking for the ball. I think it was Fred VanVleet or Pascal. They weren't really passing him the ball. So again, I know he's kind of just trying to find his role or footing in our team here, but I just don't see him having a huge, scoring wise anyways, offensive role here. So. And the next player on our list is Norman Powell. So Norman Powell is going to be an interesting player this year because it all depends. I know he can potentially go into free agency, but he can also, if he has a really bad season, he can also opt in. So again, and we did have a short off season, so I don't really know how much he's going to be putting into the work he did. I know he's a hard worker, but sometimes he plays very inconsistently, and unfortunately, that's the thing with Norman Powell. He did have a great year last year. He was kind of like the sixth man off the bench with Serge Ibaka gone, though I think he'll definitely have more shots now. So for the 2019-2020 season, Norman actually had a very underrated season. You don't realize how well he did sometimes just because he had so many injuries. He averaged about 16 points a game. Assist-wise, 1.8. Rebounds were 3.7, which was a jump from the previous year. And he also played a lot more than he had previously. But he played 28.4 minutes. This season, I will predict he's going to average about 17.6 points a game. He's going to play a few more minutes, I think, this year, 30.9 minutes a game. Rebounds-wise, he'll get more rebounds, 4.3. Assists, he's going to most likely be playing with the bench, and that's going to be Matt Thomas and Malachi Flynn. So he's going to have shooters around him. He's definitely going to average more assists. Again, it's going to be a bit tricky, though. I think just because we have so many ball handlers, if we didn't have Malachi Flynn, I definitely would have predicted Powell to score a few more points, but the ball's going to be a lot in Malachi's hands, a lot more. I think Norman Powell had more of an opportunity just because last year of the injuries we had with Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet. A lot of our starters were injured last year, and I think he came in and he had that opportunity. And not saying he won't have that opportunity this year. It's just we're so, I feel like our team's a lot deeper this year. So even if we do have injuries, there's a lot more guards that can come in. So that's my predictions for Norman Powell. So the next player on my list will be Alex Len. So Alex Len split time with, I think it was the Atlanta Hawks and the Sacramento Kings last year. He did play a little bit, but then he struggled at times too. And I don't think he'll get a lot of minutes with the Raptors because Aron Baynes is our main big man, and then we got Boucher off the bench, and then Alex Len is kind of just like a backup in case injury happens, but. I do think he'll be used more against bigger bodies like Joel Embiid. So let's have a look at his statistics. So last year, again, like I said, he split time with the Hawks and the Kings. He averaged 5 points, almost a block a game, 5.8 rebounds in 17.6 minutes. Like I said, I do not expect him to play as much. He'll maybe play 10 minutes, 5.5 rebounds. He's a decent rebounder from what I've seen. I think he'll average about a block a game. Points-wise, I think he'll average 7.1 points. I would have had him lower, but I think just the way Malachi Flynn plays, you've seen him play with Boucher and Alex Len, and he drives in the paint and then he gets the ball to the big man. So I think he'll still average a decent amount considering he'll only play 10 minutes a game. So again, like I said, I don't really expect him to play much, and he's just kind of a backup in case injuries happen. And just kind of there to just rebound for us if we are playing against bigger big men. So that's my prediction for Alex Len. So the next player on my list is Stanley Johnson. Stanival, I don't really expect much from him. Again, he'll be playing garbage minutes. He was obviously a little bit of a disappointment. He's supposed to come in as a young defensive player who could definitely develop in our system, but that wasn't the case. So, I mean, this was the highlight of, his Raptors career so far. So let's have a look at his predictions for this. All right, guys, so this is my predictions for this year. Again, I don't really expect him to do much. Unfortunately, he's supposed to be this young defensive player. I think he's only 24 years old. He's still so young. Most of us Raptors fans were hoping he'd develop into something. A lot of us kind of compared him to OG Anunoby when we first signed him, but unfortunately he has not really lived up to those expectations at all. He hasn't even been decent. He's been really, really bad. Even when you've seen him in preseason, the flow of the game just really becomes stagnant, and you see the ball movement he's trying to make it work, but just nothing really happens when he's in the game. I do see him playing a minute more. Again, as bad as he was last year, maybe he'll score half a point more. We're not going to spend too much time on him, so these are pretty much my predictions for Stanley Johnson this year. So the next player I want to talk about is DeAndre Bembry. He's been really, really impressive in only a few games we've seen him. You can see he's a really smart player. Like, you take a look at his fast break, he's got great vision. He runs up the floor and he passes the ball right there. He's a really good passer. And let's have a look at his predictions for this year. All right, guys, so let's have a look at his statistics from 2019-2020. He did play with the Atlanta Hawks. He averaged about almost 6 points a game, 2 assists almost a game, and 3.5 rebounds in 21.3 minutes a game. This season, I predict he'll score about 6 points. I think his assists will go way up just based on how you see his style of play in the preseason. My goodness, he's a really good passer. He's got great vision. And he also gives us something we really need is size. He gives us size. He's, I think, 6'5". He can play the small forward. He can also play the shooting guard. And I predict he'll play about 20 minutes a game, average about almost 5 rebounds a game. I think Nurse, I heard him talking about DeAndre Bembry. He talked about how it's going to be really hard not to play him. And based on the game we saw against the Miami Heat, I think he'll see a few more minutes with the starters as well. He's a smart player, high IQ player. As you saw in the clip, he's a great passer. He doesn't try to force his game. When you see him play, statistics-wise, he doesn't have to pass a lot or score a lot or get a lot of rebounds. Just the flow of his game, you see he's not forcing his game. He fits in with anyone. He's played with the bench. He plays really well with them. Even with the starters, he plays amazing. Just his style of play. He's really laid back, and he's a really smart player who just kind of lets the game come to him. And like I said, he's got good vision. He's a good passer. He'll find that open player for the three or in the paint. So I think he's a great addition. I'm really, really excited to see what he brings to the Raptors. I really hope he gets minutes, and Coach Nurse has said that he's going to be playing him. So I think he'll probably be the 7th or 8th player right behind Powell off the bench. So that's my predictions for DeAndre Bembry this season. All right, guys, the next player on my list is Fred VanVleet. So I'm really excited to see what he can bring. He's got his money secured. He's always been bet on himself. And he's still fairly young. He's still got room for development and improvement. So I see him taking a step forward this year. Kyle Lowry is getting older, so I expect Fred VanVleet to take a bigger role. So we'll see. I'm excited to see what he's going to do, and we'll have a look at his stats here. So comparing his stats from the previous season, I see him taking not a huge leap. I do see him averaging about 19.8 points a game. Assist-wise, I think he's going to distribute a bit more. We're going to see Lowry on the bench more, I'm assuming, just because he's older, and I think it's time for Fred VanVleet to kind of take over as a point guard. And he's going to be playing with Matt Thomas, so that's going to be easy assist right there. He's also going to be playing with Malachi Flynn, who's also a good three-point shooter. Rebounding-wise, I mean, it is what it is. He's never going to be a great rebounder, but he is a decent rebounder for his size. Minutes-wise, like I said, guys, earlier, I do expect his minutes to decrease. We heard Nurse say in the interviews that he expects the starters to play less minutes. So I see him definitely playing less minutes. Again, it's a really short offseason, so we obviously hope the players are going to be better, but how much better is going to be hard to say. So I'm expecting a little bit of a jump, not too big of a jump from Fred VanVleet. So these are my predictions for Fred VanVleet this season. So the next player will be Chris Boucher. So Chris Boucher, as we all know, will be having a much larger role this year as the second big man off the bench. He's not really a big man, but just the way the game has changed a lot. He's you can technically play him at the center position in modern NBA. So I think he's going to have a much, much better season than he did last year. He was playing limited minutes behind Ibaka and Gasol. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. So let's have a look at his stats here. So when you compare his stats from last year, he only played 13 minutes, but he put 13.2 minutes, but he put up really good stats in the limited time he played. His average 1 block a game, 4.5 rebounds, 6.5 points. I expect him to make a bigger jump this year. I think he's going to score almost 11 points. He's definitely a great shot blocker, so I can see him averaging about 2 blocks a game. And rebounds-wise, too, I definitely could see him getting about 8 rebounds a game and about 19 minutes off the bench. I don't think he'll be playing with the starters unless it's late in the game and they want to go small and they may play Boucher. We'll have to see how that happens or how Nurse will do the rotations late game. We've heard OG and Anunoby at the 5, so We'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see if Chris Boucher gets some minutes as the center position late in the game. I think he'll do well. He can shoot the 3-pointer. He was a bit disappointing. I think in the first couple of games he was kind of like all over the place, jumping. He wasn't doing very much, in my opinion. Nurse called him out, and he expected him to do better, and he played a lot better against the Miami Heat. So he stretches the floor, which is amazing. He's a really quick player. He can stretch. He can get those traditional big men on the 3-point line and just go past them. I remember in the bubble, it was against Denver. I think he pump faked on the 3-point line and then just drove right past everyone to the rim. So that's the good part about having someone like Chris Boucher. He can not only shoot threes, he's a good shot blocker, but he's also really fast. So he'll blow right by those traditional big men. Again, there are some downs to it because he can't really guard deep in the paint. He doesn't have the weight. He's very underweight for his size as a center, but it is what it is. I do expect him to have a much larger role. I think he'll have a good season, and he'll also be seeing a lot of minutes on the bench with Matt Thomas and Malachi Flynn as well. So I'm excited to see what he can do. So looking at Patrick Mccaw's stats from last year, he played a lot. He played 24.5 minutes, which is quite a bit for someone like Patrick Mccaw, just because I don't think he should be playing that many minutes. But we did have a lot of injuries, and when you look at the bench, we didn't really have someone who could handle the ball or bring up the ball as a point guard. I think that's why he played a lot, and due to injuries, he averaged about 4.6 points per game, 2.1 assists, and 2.3 rebounds a game. He was a really good passer. He's a smart player. I remember that one game against Boston, he was playing really well that game. I don't really see a role for him this year, though, just because our backcourt is so heavy. I know he can play the small forward position, but he's really underweight, and we also have Bembry and Powell, who are going to be most likely playing small forward. And again, I don't see him having much of a role this year. Our backcourt is really crowded with Matt Thomas and Malachi Flynn, so Mccaw's minutes are definitely going to be reduced to 11 minutes, I think. He'll only get about 2 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 3.7 points per game. He's one of those players that's really smart, but he just does not shoot for whatever reason, which is really frustrating to see. We saw that with Marc Gasol as well. As fans, you get really frustrated when you're wide open, but you don't really shoot. So, guys, I don't really see him having much of a role this year. I think he's going to be buried deep in the bench. So, that's what I think his role is going to be this year. So the next player I want to talk about is OG Anunoby. So a lot of us are expecting really, really big things from OG this year. As you see here, he's looked really good in the first game, but he hasn't really done much since. He is not really aggressive still. I think there's still a lot of improvement for OG. I know a lot of us are expecting really big things from him, but I think he has a long way to go before he becomes a really good offensive player. He still has a lot of tools he needs to work on, like his dribbling. Doesn't really have a post-up game, and I'll show you a clip here where he has a smaller player on him, but he posts up and then he kind of just passes up. But let's talk about some of his predictions here. I'll show you. All right, guys. So you'll see in this clip here, he has Duncan Robinson, and he's posting him up, but then he doesn't really go anywhere. He'll post him up, and then he kind of just passes it to Baynes, who's kind of in no man's territory. So this was just one of the things I was talking about. I also did see another clip where he was asking for the ball from Fred VanVleet, who passes it. He's posting up, and then he doesn't really know what to do with the ball. Again, guys, I'm not going to be hard on OG and expect him to, have DeMar DeRozan fadeaways, but there is still a lot of work he needs to do offensively. I just want to lower our expectations. I still expect him to have a good season. So let's have a look at his statistics here. So looking at his 2019-2020 season, he averaged about 10.6 points per game, 1.6 assists, 5.3 rebounds in 29.9 minutes. I expect his minutes to go up. I expect him to play starters minutes, and Nurse did speak about how he's going to play OG at the small forward position, possibly at the power forward position in a small ball lineup with Chris Boucher, and have him play with the bench as well, just to give him more of an opportunity to kind of score offensively. Our starters, when you look at them, there's Fred VanVleet, who can score, who wants the ball. There's Kyle Lowry, who can definitely score. He needs the ball in his hand. There's Pascal, obviously. So he's kind of the fourth option, even with Gasol gone. He's not going to be getting the ball as much, so I think it'll benefit him playing with the bench as well. And just the way Malachi passes, I think they'll benefit him. He does need a lot of work. I predict he'll score about almost 14 points per game. 2.6 assists, 7.3 rebounds. I definitely see a jump in his rebounds because he'll play. We've heard about how he might play late in the game or even some games at the center position in a small ball lineup. We saw that in the playoffs as well against Boston, and his minutes are going to go up. I expect him to play about 35 minutes a game. Again, I'm not expecting a huge jump from his offensively just because I feel like he's not aggressive enough, and unfortunately his teammates do not pass the ball to him for whatever reason. He doesn't really demand the ball, and as we saw in the clip, sometimes he does get the ball. He's not sure what to do with the ball. He'll post up, he'll have the ball, he'll make a move, and then he kind of just passes it off again. So he still needs work, and like we saw, the first game he did well, and then I think the next couple games he only shot about 4 shots the next game, and I may be wrong here, but again, same thing against Miami Heat. He only shot about 3 or 4 shots the entire game, so he needs to be more aggressive, demand the ball, and he is a progress. He needs a lot of work on his offensive game. We all hope he has a huge jump, but just because there's so many ball-dominant players in our starting lineup, I don't really see it. And that being said, guys, this is what I think his statistics will look like in the 2020-2021 season. So the next player on my list is Paul Watson. So I know a lot of us have been really, really excited about Paul Watson. He did have a really good bubble. He did one game where he scored, I think, 22 points. But he did play another game where he only scored 4 points. So he definitely has potential. He is a bit older. I think he's 26, 27. And he does share an agent with Pascal Siakam. And he did say he worked out with Pascal Siakam in the offseason. So let's have a look at his statistics. So for the 2019-2020 season, Paul Watson didn't really play much with the Raptors up until I think most of us really saw him in the bubble. He only played about 8.8 minutes a game, and he averaged about 4 points a game, half an assist, 1.6 rebound. This year, I don't expect him to play as much. He's very talented, as we can see. A lot of us would like him to play a lot more, but I think he's going to have a similar role this year to how kind of Chris Boucher had last year, we know they're skilled, but they're just guys ahead of them in the pecking order who are going to get more minutes, who are going to get the ball more, who are going to play more. So I think I see a similar role for Paul Watson this year. I think he's going to average about 12 minutes a game or so. He's going to score about 7 points. He's a good three-point shooter, as we saw, not only in the bubble, but also against the preseason game in Miami versus Miami Heat, where he had back-to-back possessions, I think, and he shot three-pointers. So he can get you points in a hurry. He's also a decent passer. He's not a great passer, and he will be playing most likely with the Malachis and the Thomas. So assist-wise, I think it's easy to get assists when you're playing with those guys. So rebounds, he is a good size. I think he's 6'6", 6'7". I think he's around there, so he can definitely get rebounds as well. And again, like I said, I expect him to have a smaller role. He is very talented. We're all excited to see what he can do, but unfortunately, I don't see him getting a lot of minutes. Like I said, he'll be like how Chris Boucher was last year. We all wanted Chris Boucher to play a lot more, but unfortunately, there were guys ahead of him who got the time, who got the ball more, who got to play a lot more. So I definitely see Paul Watson in a similar role this season. So the next player I want to talk about is Pascal Siakam. So I know he didn't have a really good bubble, but he was also our leading scorer. He was great before the bubble, and he was an all-star. I definitely expect him to bounce back. He struggled obviously in the playoffs, especially against Boston, but it was funny because he was playing so well before the bubble happened, and Nick Nurse even mentioned how he seems like he just never gets tired. He was always running back and forth. He had those transition layup baskets where he'd just be sprinting on the other side of the court. He'd get that pass from Lowry or Vanvleet, and he was just all over the floor. So let's have a look at what his statistics may look like this season. So when you look at Pascal Siakam's 2019-2020 statistics, he was an all-star. His points went down, I think, due to how bad he played in the bubble. He's averaged, overall in the season, he averaged almost 23 points a game, 3.5 assists, 7.3 rebounds in about 35.2 minutes per game. I expect his minutes to stay the same for this season. He is a big part of our offense, and we definitely need help scoring, and Pascal can do that. I don't expect a huge jump from him just because I expect OG to get the ball, or you'd hope he'd get the ball a little bit more. And Aron Baynes is not the passer that Marc Gasol is. He's definitely going to shoot more, whereas Marc Gasol would kind of pass on open shots and give it to VanVleet or other players or Pascal. So I expect him to average almost about 24 points a game. His assists will definitely go up. I think he'll average about 4.2 assists a game. Rebounding, expect his rebounding to definitely go up to 8.3, maybe even more, because with Marc Gasol gone, Aron Baynes isn't the strongest rebounder. I know Mark wasn't either, but he was a big body that would always just be there to get the rebounds. And also because we'll be playing small ball lineup, so I expect Pascal to crash the boards more. And just looking back, honestly, at his bubble, I know a lot of people were really, really harsh, and I get it, guys. It's the playoffs. If he had one decent game against Boston, we definitely would have made the Eastern Conference Finals. That being said, guys, I think it was unfair, the names he was being called, all the racism that was going online, and just how much hate he was getting. It's understandable as fans being frustrated, but we need to remember players need to go through this, and he talked about is visibly obvious after Game 7 about how he needs to work on himself. But just when you looked at him, he just didn't look right. And we saw his interviews much later after the season was over that he wasn't in the right state of mind and how the bubble just affected him a lot. And we saw that from a few other players as well. For their mental health, I can't imagine it being too good. So he definitely struggled. But guys, we need to give him some... We need to stop hating on him, honestly. I mean, if you look at Lowry, who's being praised like, he's the best Raptor, which he is. He went through a lot of hard seasons as well. He had about 2 or 3 really, really bad postseasons, if not more, where he really struggled. He was shooting, I think, like 28% from the 3. So it takes those struggles to get to the point where you're an all-star or even better player and you perform that much better. Look at Lowry now. He struggles so much in the playoffs, and you saw what he did not only in the championship run, but also last year. He just absolutely killed it. And I think those are the struggles players go through, and we need to go a little bit easy on them. I understand your frustration. It sucks seeing Pascal as poorly as he played, but we need to go a little bit easy on them. You got to go through the struggle sometimes, and it helps them grow. So I expect Pascal to not only have a good 2020-2021 season, but also for him to perform that much better. And he did talk a lot about how in the offseason he worked a lot on his shot, his diet, his nutrition. And so far in the preseason, you know what? His shot has looked amazing. His three-point shot looks way better than it did last year. And I don't think we've seen a lot of his game. I definitely think he's going to save some for the season. Also in the playoffs, he's only really shot threes, and he hasn't really played much of a post-up game. I think we'll see more of that during the season. So I definitely expect him to have a huge season this year. So the next player on our list is Yuta Watanabe. So last year, he played only about 5.4 minutes a game. He averaged only 2 points, not even half an assist, 1.1 rebound a game. I can see him having a bigger role with the Raptors this year. He's going to be one of those players that's kind of going to be like how Terence Davis was in last year's situation, where he's not going to play a lot, and not in the sense that he can't play, but more so because he's kind of behind everyone in the depth chart. So Terence Davis came in because a lot of injuries happened, and I feel like Yuta's going to be in that position where he can definitely play, as we've seen in the preseason. He can he allows his game to kind of just flow in. He doesn't force his game like how you saw with the other 2 players he was competing with, Elise Johnson and also Ellenson. So he was very smooth in how he played the game, and also his shot looks really nice, especially last game against Miami Heat. He shot that 3-pointer. It looked really smooth. Also, he's a big body. He's 6'9", so we can definitely use him at the power forward or small forward position. That's why I think he's going to get some minutes there. And also injuries happen, guys, so he's going to probably... He's not going to get a lot of minutes. I think he's going to average about 9.3 minutes a game. Rebounds-wise, he's a decent rebounder for his size. He's 3.7 rebounds. I see him averaging about 1.3 assists a game and 4.3 points per game. Now, he has a nice shot, and like we've seen in the preseason, and he plays in a way that he plays very smart, because he's not... Like you see with a lot of players, they've kind of tried to force the game or try to get in certain positions to kind of demand the ball. He's not the type of player. He plays within a system, and that's why I think the Raptors kept him. He plays very well like that. So these are my predictions for him in the 2020-2021 season. So the next player on the list is Terence Davis. Now, obviously, he's had a lot of controversy around what's been going on with him in the offseason, but I'm assuming the Raptors are planning on keeping him just because they have played him so much this season. So I expect him to have a larger role than he did last year. he's a great scorer. He's very athletic, and he can also play the shooting guard position. So he can play right beside Flynn. So that being said, let's have a look at what his stats should look like in this. So in 2019-2020 season, Terence Davis got to see quite a lot of minutes due to injuries. He played 16.8 minutes a game. That was, again, just injuries overall, but particularly to Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet. And we really didn't have that many guards last year compared to this year, where we're kind of we have way too many guards, in my opinion. But with that being said, he did play really well, actually, in those minutes. He averaged 7.5 points per game, 1.6 assists, 3.3 rebounds. I expect him to get a little bit more minutes, so 17.3 minutes this season. I expect that he'll play a little bit more off ball just because of his size. He's a bit bigger, so he'll probably play the shooting guard besides Flynn, or if he does get some minutes with the starters, I see him in the shooting guard position. I think he'll average about 10.8 points per game, 1.7 assists, and 3.9 rebounds. He's a good defender, so I'm actually really excited about what he brings. His athleticism, he can get you steals, he can drive to the basket, he can shoot threes, and he's very athletic. So I'm excited, and I think he'll be a big part of our bench, and I hope so, because with Nurse, he's got a lot of guards, so he's got some options, but I'm hoping that he's a big part of our bench, and he provides a lot of offense for us this year. So the next player is Jalen Harris. To be honest, guys, I don't really expect much from him. He'll probably be the last guy off the bench, and I don't even think he'll be up here. If the G League is going, he'll be with Raptors 905 for sure, and he's gonna, even if he is with the Raptors, he's gonna get garbage minutes or towards the end of the season when we have 1 or 2 games left. I don't see him playing a lot. In his college year, he did average about 21.7 points per game, 3.9 assists, 6.5 rebounds, and 33 minutes played. He's probably going to play about 5 minutes a game with the Raptors. He'll average about 1.4 rebounds, half an assist, 2.3 points per game. We did get to see him early on in the preseason. In the first game we played, we didn't see him after that. He does have decent size, though. I think he's about 6'5", so he can play the shooting guard, small forward at times, but he's more of a project. He's going to be developed in our 905, and he's not going to see very many minutes this season. So let's have a look at the next player on our list is Matt Thomas, and I'm really excited about him because of what he showed in the first preseason game. I know he didn't play that well the next 2 games, but what he showed was enough to impress me, and his 3-point shooting, is we all know, is amazing. Mr. 99%. He also showed us flashes of what he added to his game, which was really high IQ. His passing, I personally really liked it. His passing got much better in the offseason, and last year he didn't play as much as a lot of us had hoped for. For whatever reason, Nurse didn't want to play him because his defense isn't the greatest. His one-on-one defense isn't the greatest, but in the bubble he looked a lot better and stronger. So let's have a look at what his statistics might look like this year. So when you look at his last season, in 2019-2020 season, he only played about 10.7 minutes a game. Unfortunately, we all wanted him to play a lot more, but Nurse didn't really play him because Nurse is huge on defense, and he played that many minutes, and he did still average almost 5 points a game, half an assist, and 1.3 rebounds. This year, I see him having a larger role. Again, I personally would like him to play a lot more minutes. I think his minutes may still be a little restricted just because of his defense, and also due to the fact that we can play Terence Davis, Bembry, Powell, and Malachi is going to be the point guard off the bench, but they're all guards, so he's going to be really competing for minutes. But I see him averaging about almost 14.7 minutes a game, almost 15 minutes a game. I see his offense growing a lot, though. You saw what he did in the first preseason game. I think he's going to average about 8.2 points per game. Assist is going to go up. His passing looks great, so I see him averaging about 2.2 assists a game. Rebounder, he's not a great rebounder, so 1 rebound a game is what I expect from him. Overall, I definitely see him having a bigger impact offensively with the Raptors this year. And last but not least, let's talk about him. Yes, the rookie who everyone is so excited about, including myself, Malachi Flynn. So he has really, really impressed me, just the way, the maturity he's shown, the passing, and just his high IQ for a rookie. You wouldn't think he's a rookie, and his passing abilities and everything. He is just such a smart, intelligent player. The way he plays the game, the way he carries himself on the court. I can see why they compared him to Fred VanVleet. He doesn't get too high or low. You can see his emotions are very stable. He's not overly excited. He doesn't get too angry at himself. His passing is amazing, as you can see there. He's good in transition, and I expect big things from him. So let's have a look at what his statistics might look like this season. So in his last year with San Diego State, he averaged 17.6 points per game, 5.1 assists. He's a good passer, as we've seen, and he got a decent amount of rebounds for his size. He got 4.5 rebounds in about 33.4 minutes a game. With the Raptors, I see him getting about 16.5 minutes a game, 2 rebounds. He's a good passer, as we saw against Miami. He only played 12 minutes, but he got 5 assists in those 12 minutes he played. So I see him averaging about 4.3 assists per game and about almost 10 points per game. He's a really smart player. The way he plays, you would not think he's a rookie at all, and I can definitely see why they compared him to Fred VanVleet. Although their styles are very, very different. He shoots the 3. His shot looks really nice. When he's shooting that 3, he can drive to the basket. He plays good defense. He gets right in your face, and he also gets those really sneaky steals. So we were really, really fortunate that Malachi fell to us, because there were about 4 teams ahead of us that really needed a point guard, and we were lucky that New York Knicks and Boston Celtics went ahead and drafted some players that were expected to go late 30s in the second round. So we're very fortunate that Malachi fell to us, and I expect a lot from him. I expect his minutes to be limited, just because I was listening to Nick Nurse, and he talked about how impressed he was with Malachi, but he also said he does not like to get too high on players, especially rookies. So I think I would like to see him play more, but I don't think Nurse will do that, just because he wants to. He doesn't want to give too many minutes to a rookie. So we'll see how that plays out. And again, we don't know, because injuries can happen, especially with Kyle Lowry. He's up there in age, and Fred VanVleet too. He sometimes gets injured, so we'll see how he plays. But I expect big things from Malachi. I'm really high on him, and I'm really, really excited he's with the Raptors. So that being said, guys, this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you guys think, and if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe. Thank you so much.